What would you do if a ghost showed up and gave you terrible advice? And then we traveled to Australia to take a look at the story of the mysterious Dingo Man. Is there truly a half man, half dingo wandering the wilderness of Australia, controlling wild animals to satiate his bloodlust? Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day too. I hope you guys had an awesome weekend. We got a ton of stuff to cover today, so first off, running into Dead Rabbit Radio command, everyone get on your feet and give it up for Utah Spice. Woohoo, yeah, it's the hottest sauce, man. I don't know what spice. Powder, maybe? It's either a pile of powder or a puddle of salsa. Utah Spice is oozing its way into Dead Rabbit Radio command. Utah Spice has been getting the word out about Dead Rabbit Radio. I always say, if you guys can't support the show financially, just do that. Just do what Utah Spice does, whatever that means. Help spread the word about the show. And that is why he is going to be our captain, our pilot this episode. Again, if you guys can't support the show financially, just do what Utah Spice does. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Dead Rabbit Radio is your favorite paranormal show. That is how you can help the show grow. Okay, Utah Spice, everyone take a big lick of this dude. lick away, everyone. Lum, lum, lum. A little spicy. And then I'm going to go ahead, after we're done with that, I'm going to toss you the keys to the, what's something we haven't used in a while. I'm going to go ahead and take those keys back. I'm going to toss you a little steam shovel and an engineer's cap. Everyone climb on board the Carpenter caboose as Utah Spice chews us out of Dead Rabbit Radio command all the way to a hospital. Chugga 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 choo choo. Nice leisurely train right into a hospital. Get out of the way, sick people. We get out, we put on our doctor's coats, and we're walking around. We got our clipboards and stuff like that. We see a bunch of patients, and we're like sticking wood in their mouths. Say ah. But anyways, we're walking around this doctor's office, and we walk past a room, and that's where this story takes place. We walk right past that. We're continuing our antics in the other wing of the hospital. We're about to meet a man. Let's call him Jeff. Oh, and I forgot to say, this hospital is in Maryland. We're in the state of Maryland, and there was a man who we all call Jeff. We don't have his real name. It's March 2025, so a relatively recent story. In March, Jeff found out that he has cancer. He's all, oh no, doc, like, is it bad? Doctor's like, yeah, it's pretty bad. There's no such thing as good cancer, but I think with the right treatments and the right protocols, we might be able to get it. Right? We might be able to take care of it. So, in March, he was diagnosed with cancer. In June, he had part of one of his kidneys removed. So, kidney cancer, I'm assuming. Well, in July 2nd to be specific, Jeff has a dream. In this dream, he is told he needs to go back into the hospital because more tumors have been found in his body. So, he's in the hospital, and while he's there, he is greeted by his wife's recently deceased grandmother. His wife's grandmother, who just died, walks into the room and says, hey, Jeff, how's it going? Well, probably not good. You're in the hospital for multiple tumors. But, Jeff, I needed to tell you something. Now, she walks in with a big smile on her face. She's being so pleasant, just like he knew her while she was alive. But the message she's about to deliver is anything but pleasant. She said, Jeff, it's close to the time where you're going to transition from life to death. And there's nothing you can do to stop this. It's not bad, Jeff. It's just the way things are. What's going to happen? You're going to have these tumors, you're going to have these new problems, and you're going to have to start chemo. But it will not work. You're going to die. But you have to start chemo. Even though I'm now telling you there's no point, you have to do it, and despite that, you will still die. Before Jeff can really even process this odd message, chemo is such a arduous journey. I mean, it really puts the body through the ringer. Some people say, I'd rather just die of cancer than go through chemo. Some of them have already been through chemo once or twice, and they're like, I can't do it again. I'd rather just start the transition towards death, because it takes a lot. And now he's being told it won't even work, so what's the point? But before he can even process this, suddenly an angel appears standing next to his grandmother-in-law. The angel says, Jeff, you need to start chemo, but it will not work. You still will die. However, you must start chemo. Repeats the same message. And then adds, Jeff, I'm going to tell you something. When you die, it will not be terrifying. In fact, for you, it'll feel like you're just laying next to your wife in bed, and you simply fall asleep. And then everything will be okay. You'll be with us. But you have to let this sequence of events play out. Jeff woke up. He's laying there in his bedroom next to his wife in the home that they share. Jeff says, I've never had such a vivid dream before in my life. Nothing's even come close. And also, he said, I'm not a religious person. So the idea that the grandmother showed up to talk to me, I kind of understood, but an angel? I don't believe in angels. I've never believed in angels. So that part confused him as well. Why would a symbol, one of the most universal symbols of religion, show up in my dream? Because I don't believe in them. It's a weird image in a weird dream. Now, he posted this story the next day. He posted this online on July 3rd. And when he posted it, he had an interesting question. Not so much about what the dream meant, because it's pretty obvious everyone's kind of saying what's going on. He does say, the whole angel thing threw him for a loop. But the big question that he had was, do I tell my wife? Do I tell my wife about the dream? And he's kind of debating it because he goes, I don't really want to freak her out. She's already so scared about everything going on. I don't want to worry her anymore. This was posted online underneath the name Chef Jeff 198633. Do I tell my wife? Do I tell my wife what's going on? And I don't really have an answer for that. I'm not married. I'm not beholden to anybody. Obviously, if something super serious is going on, I may or may not tell my loved ones. And I've made those decisions over the years based on circumstances of a particular thing. So I don't really have any advice for that. And not like this is a medical advice or an Ask Abby podcast. I don't normally give out advice. What I do think is interesting, though, is this idea of you must do something that is going to completely break your body down. You have to go through chemo, but it will not work. I would argue if you told anyone that who is suffering from cancer, you need to do chemo, but I'm telling you right now, it will not work at all. Not that from a medical aspect, but an angel came into the doctor's office last night and told me it will not work, because sometimes doctors could go, it's a Hail Mary. We can try chemo. We don't know if it's going to have any results. This is a spirit. This is both the ghost of a dead relative and an angel, a messenger of God, who he doesn't believe in, which is fair, which is fine, but also kind of confused them. They are saying from the other side, divine knowledge, this will not work. So the question is, why would they say that? Why wouldn't they say it's not going to work, so don't even try? When they discover these new tumors, just live your life, because nothing's going to stop you from dying, but it's okay because dying is just the transition and you'll be with us on the other side. That would be a normal message we would get. So why does he have to do it? And I kind of thought about that, from a paranormal researcher thing. Why would messengers of the universe tell you to endure a trial even though it knows you're going to fail it? And I started thinking, I go, well, it's possible that, we're just putting on our conspiracy caps for this and kind of shooting out a couple different theories. One, I thought, It's possible that he's going to go through chemo and it's not going to work and he's going to die anyways, but that will inspire other people around him to get chemo. Jason, no, it would be the opposite. It'd probably make people not want to get chemo. They're like, Uncle Jeff died? Uncle Jeff died because the chemo didn't work? I'm not getting it. It's like tumors are bulging out of your eyeballs. I thought maybe by him doing it, it would make other people want to do it. But you're right, that's a bad theory. The other one I had, and this one, it might be a little controversial. I don't think it is because life goes on. But I thought, it could be that Jeff has to undergo chemo and his wife will be there with him, and his wife ends up meeting a doctor, and after Jeff dies, the wife and the doctor have a relationship and start a family. And I know you guys are thinking, so Jeff's just the cuck? He's a chemo cuck? No, I'm not saying Jeff is a chemo cuck, although that is the name of my new band. That's just the way the world works. Life doesn't end when something happens like this. It's not like his wife, who we'll call Abby. I had her name Abby in my notes, I just never addressed. That's not her real name, but after Jeff dies, Abby just can't crawl into a cocoon and never love again. And you wouldn't expect the same thing from Jeff. If Abby died, Jeff can't just be like, well, I guess I'm never going to feel the touch of another human ever. No, life goes on, and it might sound weird, but that's just the way things are. And that's kind of what I thought. I go, he's all getting chemo and the doctor's all super hunky. He's all so muscular, his lab coat doesn't fit. Abby's swooning over him. And he's like, oh man, that's what the grandma just wanted her to be dating Dr. Muscles. Oh man, she's just making me do this chemo. But anyways, I thought about that. I go, the chances are, here's the thing too. It's possible it was just a dream. He's under a lot of stress right now, not just physically, but mentally and spiritually. Being diagnosed with cancer, it's not the death sentence that it used to be, sure, but it's still just hearing those words, so terrifying. Even if it can be treated 100% and you'll be good to go for the next 40 years, just being told that is very scary. Very scary. So it could have just been a dream. 100% could have been a dream. But then I thought, if it's not a dream, they could have said there has to be a sequence of events that happens so the world continues on after you leave, Jeff. And so, basically, Abby's going to meet the hunkiest doctor in Maryland, and she may resist his charms at first. Her husband's recently passed away, and the doctor's like, Abby, sorry about what happened with that whole chemo thing. I really thought we had a shot. And Abby's like, oh, I know, me too. I was hoping. Sniff, sniff. And, a couple weeks pass. A couple weeks. You're like, that's not long at all, man. A couple weeks pass, and they run into each other at a coffee shop and talk a little bit about Jeff and a little bit about each other. And a week or two after that, they just happen to run into each other at a grocery store, and they talk a little bit about Jeff and a little more about each other, and this goes on until eventually a new relationship is formed. The stream of life continues on. And here's the thing, as far as Jeff's concerned, he's dead. I imagine that in death, the only thing that we want is for those we've left behind to be happy and safe and to be loved. So I don't think he'd have a problem with it, right? No one's going to call him chemo cuck up there. He's chilling. He's like, whoa, I didn't believe in any of this religious stuff. There's a lot of angels up here. A lot of them. You guys could have, I don't know, maybe showing up more on Earth. Probably would have had more people believe in you. But yeah, interesting story, right? Would you continue chemo if you knew for a fact if a spirit came down and said it's not going to work, but you have to do it anyways? Would you? Would you tell your loved one about this dream? And it could just be a dream. Would you tell him? And then what is the ultimate meaning of that? Why put him through the pain of chemo just for it not to work? Is it because a sequence of events had to happen? Is it because a sequence of events had to happen to move the world forward? Fascinating story. Utah Spice, I'm going to toss you the keys to the world. Famous Carpenter Copter, we are saying goodbye to the hospital in Maryland. Why don't you fly us all the way out to Australia, mate. As we're headed out there, I wanted to do a really quick Dead Rabbit Radio Recommends. I normally do these on Wednesday's episode, but I cannot stop thinking about this movie. I saw it a couple weeks ago during my break, and it's so weird. It's so weird. Nowadays, when I see a movie that's really, really bizarre, I start to think, is this just the director's fetish? Recently, I did a Dead Rabbit Radio Recommends for the movie The Unhealer, about a man who ate dirty clothes and then gained power over the people whose clothes he ate. And I go, this has to be fetish. By the time the guy was eating a dirty jockstrap, I go, okay, I get it. The director's into eating dirty clothes. Years ago, I watched a movie called Slime City. And the entire movie was just people turning into slime, slowly and painfully. And I go, I think this is the director's fetish. He just likes slime people. I watch these movies and they're so weird. You can't really be compared to anything that I go, well, maybe the director just has a fetish. I watched a movie the other day called The Sweet Taste of Souls. And that's my Dead Rabbit Radio recommendation for this episode. Sweet Taste of Souls. And the cover on Amazon Prime is a big slice of cherry pie. And it's bloody. I go, oh, okay, what is this, like a cannibal movie? What is this, like a guy's getting turned into cherry pie? That's my fetish, because I love cherry pie. Oh, I don't want the guy in it. Keep the guy out. But I'll have the cherry pie. Sweet Taste of Souls. I go, oh, it's some cannibal movie. Right? You're like, Jason, you very famously have a weird obsession with cannibals. Quit putting fetishes on other people, and you just going, oh, it was just a cannibal movie that I randomly found. It's not a cannibal movie. I was very disappointed. I was like, oh man, I thought people were going to get eaten. No, it's not a cannibal movie. It's so bizarre. It's a movie. It has nothing to do with pie. Okay, so there is someone who makes pie in it, but it's totally not part of the plot. You didn't have to have that part at all in it. Has nothing to do with pie. It's the story about a woman who owns a diner in a small town. And if you piss her off, she puts you inside of a photograph. So, what? What? I know. I was like, what is this movie? The setup is a group of teenagers or college students or whatever come into the restaurant and they're mean to the owner or rude. And they leave, and they're driving down the road, and their car breaks down, and they get out of the car, and the next thing they know, they're trapped in a photograph at the restaurant. Now, they can walk around, and they can talk to each other, and they can talk to the other photographs that are also trapped people. The whole restaurant is filled with these photographs, or frames might be a better way to put it, and you can see the outside world because there's just a glass pane in front of you. And this woman, they never explain how she gets the power. And I don't care. I don't need explanations for everything. But they never explain how she gets this power. They never explain how it works. But if she wants to, she can put you into a photograph. And I was like, wait, what's going on? I expected cannibalism. But now I was super intrigued. At one point, the teenagers, they're trapped in a photograph and they're talking to the other pictures. And one of the couples in another picture, they had been in that photograph for 50 years. But you don't age. You don't need food. You don't need or get any sleep. You have no biological needs whatsoever because you're a photograph now. Super weird. It is a super, super weird movie. Highly recommended. The Sweet Taste of Souls. It reminded me of a Black Mirror episode. But I'll say this. I used to watch Black Mirror. I haven't watched it in years. But the concept alone of people getting stuck in a photograph, that is just weird. But how they do it, right? Like how time passes. How would it drive you mad? Yeah. Right? Everyone's kind of going a little crazy by the ending. People are trying to figure their way out of the frame. What happens if a picture gets knocked off the wall? How deep does the image go? Can you walk into the white void behind you? It's really, really interesting from a sci-fi standpoint. And then the movie goes on and on. It's just absolutely bizarre. And probably maybe a half hour before it ends, it turns into a terrifying horror film. Because up until this point, you're thinking, well, what would I do if I was trapped in a photograph? As people are trying to escape, and the people who'd been there for 50 years said there's no way out. You cannot get out of this picture. Everything you try, we've tried. But the teenagers are trying to figure stuff out. Really, really interesting. And then it becomes just a terrifying film about how helpless you would be if you were 4 inches tall and trapped on a piece of paper. Very, very fascinating, and I really enjoyed it. I haven't stopped thinking about it every time I look at a photograph now. I'm like, oh, I'm scared. Are those real people? Talk to me. I'm all banging on the glass. Talk to me. Dead Rabbit Radio recommends A Sweet Taste of Souls, or The Sweet Taste of Souls. It's one of the two. And it's funny, too, because the opening credits is what I can only imagine the lead actress, who is the woman who owns the diner, sing the theme song of the movie. And I hate to break your heart, kid, but you're a good-looking gal and you're a good actor, but you're not a good singer. And when I first put it in, I was like, oh, no. Like, I'm watching this movie. I know it's going to be low budget going in, poorly sung song, and now looking back on it, I think that was intentional. I think it's because that character is so egotistical that she would see herself as singing the theme song of her own movie. At first I thought it was just a odd choice, and now I think it was kind of a genius choice on the part of the director to have her sing it, because it just showed that the entire world that they exist in, it's her world. Everyone else is just kind of living in it. The Sweet Taste of Souls. Dead Rabbit Radio recommends The Sweet Taste of Souls. We're headed all the way out to Australia. Specifically, we're headed to Queensland, Australia, and even more specific than that, we're headed to Fraser Island. And there we're going to meet a young man. We don't have his real name. We're going to call him Sam. Sam is hanging out on the beach here. Waves splashing playfully. Seagulls flying overhead. Caw-caw! They're flying overhead. He's just having fun in Australia. Well, fun, I don't know if that's the right word, because we covered this guy back on Friday's episode, and he does seem given to bouts of depression, so maybe he's just kind of hanging out being sad. But he's definitely had a rough life. As he's sitting back by the beach here on Fraser Island, he reminisces about his odd childhood. So on Friday's episode, we talked about him meeting a guardian angel. Maybe. Don't know what it is. Interesting story. But I'm not going to recap that. Just sum it up. It's a guardian angel. And then he goes, man, what a weird story that was. But that's nothing compared to the chicken problem I used to have at my family farm. Him and his family, they had a bunch of chickens. And every so often, they'd lose one. And Sam would go out and he'd be like, hey, Pa, Ma, look there's less chickens than there were. We used to have 14 chickens and now we only have 13. He has to do the math real quick in his head. You're Jason, wow, you're really bad at math. That wasn't me, that was Sam. That was Sam who hesitated. I knew it right away. And his parents would be like, Sam, what are you talking about, boy? We've always only had 13 chickens. Sam goes, no, we didn't. His parents would go, oh, Sam, you and your foolish games. Well, then a couple months later, Sam would be hanging out at the farm, and he'd be throwing chicken feed at the chickens. That's him eating it. He's like, and one seed for each of you. All you chickens fight over it. I'm full myself on all this chicken feed. He'd be throwing chicken feed out to the chickens. And he's feeding the chickens, and he's looking, and he goes, wait a second. We have less chickens than we used to have. But more chickens than he had the first time. It's not a continuously dwindling number. It's not like they have 12 now. They got a couple of chickens in the meantime. So let's say they had 17 chickens this time. But he only counts 16. You're like, what? So he found more chickens? No, they bought more chickens. Eventually the family bought more chickens. But there's one less... It's overly complicated. But there's one less... There's There's more than there were the first time, but less than there were the night before. So let's say they bought extra chickens, so they had 17. But now he goes, well, how come we only have 16 chickens? I could have swore we had bought 4 more, making 17, but now we only have 16. Mom, Pa, I think we're missing a chicken. And Mom and Dad come out and they count the chickens. And they're like, oh, you idiot. No, we always only had 16 chickens. Well, we did buy 3 chickens recently, but only 3 chickens. What are you talking about, missing chickens? That don't make any sense, Sam. Just do your job. And Sam began to realize this pattern, that every so often one of their chickens would go missing, but only he would remember they had that chicken. Everyone else in the family would say there wasn't a chicken taken, we always had that amount. This continues to go on, and Sam realizes there's a bit of a pattern. He always notices a missing chicken the day after either a moonless night or a night where the cloud cover was so thick it might as well not be a moon. It was only on dark, dark, dark nights when a chicken went missing. Ordinarily, you would just say it's some sort of predator. But what makes it truly odd is no one else in the family realizes a chicken is gone. Now, Sam has a dog named Jackson, and he realized, hey boy, listen, my parents, they don't believe that the chickens ever existed. So you're the only friend I got on this case. We're going to solve the case of the missing chickens. You up for it, Jackson? You up for it, boy? Oh, good boy, good boy. And now Jackson can't talk, right? He's not like, what clues did you gather today, Jackson? Jackson has a mouthful of feathers sticking out of his mouth, his teeth soaked in chicken blood. No, Jackson can't really help him in the investigation except to do what a dog does, and that is to defend the chickens. And he goes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to train Jackson to, on my command, to run as fast as he can to the chicken pen. Because that way I figure like there must be some sort of predator getting into our farm and eating chickens. That would solve the first issue. As to why no one else notices chickens are missing, I'll figure that out on the back end. First off, I gotta try catching this thing. So he trains Jackson to do this run. This chicken run, you might say. Well, one night it was dark. Like no moon dark. And Sam is outside with Jackson. And something tells Sam, right now, this is when you gotta go. This is when the predator's there. He just gets this gut instinct and he goes, Jackson, go! Sam watches Jackson as he speeds off towards the chicken coop far faster than Sam can keep up, but Sam is chasing after him. He hears Jackson tearing through the farm, headed towards the coop, barking wildly the whole way. Sam is running as fast as his little legs will carry him behind good old Jackson. The farm falls silent. Jackson is no longer barking. To Sam, it sounds like Jackson had been erased, vanished from the farm. Sure enough, when Sam does get to the chicken coop, Jackson isn't there. Sam never saw Jackson again. That would kind of make you bummed out, right? You train your dog to help you on a mission, and then he disappears. But, obviously, Sam's just trying to live his life as a little kid. And now his dog's gone. And he has no idea where Jackson went or what got him. Well, let's fast forward. We don't know exactly what time, does this story take place. Years later, we don't know. He was 8 on Friday's story. I believe all these stories kind of take place around that same time period. Probably should have said that in the beginning, but now we're at Fraser Island. And he could be older at this point. But now he's at Fraser Island, and he's sitting there, and just kind of hanging out. He's, looking at the want ads. He's looking for a new dog. It's just another Australian day as Sam is sitting there on the beach, watching the waves come in. And that's when he sees a strange figure walking across the beach. And Sam's close enough to see some of the detail, but not close enough to really make out everything that's going on. Because the first thing he goes is, what? What is that? What he saw was a man who either had the head of a dingo, like an Australian dog, right? Isn't it like a mix between a dog and a coyote? I don't know. Probably could have researched it. It's some sort of like wolf type creature. But it's not a creature. I mean, like it's a real thing. It's a canine of some sort. Yeah, it's a dog. An ancient lineage of dog found in Australia. So anyways, what he's looking at is either a man with the head of a dingo, which would be impressive enough, right? That could just be the end of the encounter. Or maybe he doesn't have a head of a dingo, Joe thinks. He's looking carefully. He goes, that might actually be a man, like a normal man, not with the head of a dingo, but just wearing a dingo pelt. And like the snout and everything is like laying over the top of the guy's head, and then he just has like the rest of the fur draped over his shoulders. Just wearing a dingo pelt. And is walking down the beach. But either way, right? Like, Jason, you've told us all last week you had a story about a man with the head of a dingo. Now you're telling us, I could just been a costume. It doesn't matter. It does matter. Well, it doesn't matter. You're right, I did hype it up all week, but let me finish the story, and then at the end you'll go, wow, that didn't matter. It kind of mattered, right? I probably shouldn't have kept telling you it was half man, half dingo. But anyways, this man, either half man, half dingo, a beast beyond all comprehension, or just a guy wearing a suit. But he had, like, normal legs. Like, he didn't have furry legs. He just had, like, the top part of the dingo. You're like, I know, Jason, that kind of makes it worse. Because then it does make it sound like a belt. Let's just keep going. He had the head of a dingo, or a dingo-covered head. He's walking down the beach, but that's not all. He's also surrounded by a pack of dingoes. Sam's like, what? Like, man should be mauled to pieces. He's, why are all these dingoes around him just acting playfully? Why does he have this thing on his head? Is he a dingo? Sam has all these questions kind of blowing his mind, and that's when he begins to hear the sound of cicadas, which they're like a cricket, right? A cicada or a butterfly. It's some sort of insect. Did you do any research for this story? You had to Google these. You can't do math. You did hesitate when you tried to do 14 minus 1. There was hesitation in your voice. And now you don't know what a cicada is? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Just a bunch of insect noises. All of a sudden, it either was the chittering of grasshoppers or the loud flapping of butterfly wings. It's two totally different noises, but all of a sudden, Sam hears cicadas all around him. He doesn't see them, he just hears the noise of cicadas. Sam's looking around and trying to make sense of everything that's going on right now, and that's when he sees there's a kangaroo also in the surf. So it's a couple feet off of the beach. The waves are actually splashing over this kangaroo who just happens to be standing there in the water. Now, I did look that up. Because I go, are there kangaroos on Fraser Island? They're actually quite rare. He may have been seeing what's known as a swamp wallaby. They look like kangaroos. I did research that, but it doesn't really, again, doesn't make a difference for where the story's going, and I'll be honest. Sam probably knows a kangaroo versus a swamp wallaby. He lives in Australia. However, there aren't a ton of kangaroos on Fraser Island. By the time of this story, and by the time the story's done, there's going to be one less. The dingo man is standing there in the water. The dingoes themselves, the pack that was following him, remain on the beach. The dingo man's looking at the kangaroo, and as if it somehow convinced the kangaroo, Sam felt like the dingo man was actually in some way either mind controlling the kangaroo or communicating with it in some way. But the kangaroo began to hop out of the water, hopped onto the dry land of the beach, where it was then promptly devoured by the dingo pack. They tore the mighty, muscular kangaroo to shreds. Bites getting ripped out of this kangaroo. One dingo says, "Dibs on the pouch." That's the least tasty part. He's like, oh, it's gross. Tastes like baby kangaroo feet. The rest of the kangaroos, they're like, we thought it was kind of weird you asked for that part. It's kind of the grossest part. So they're eating big chunks of white meat out of this kangaroo. At this point, the sound of cicadas is so crazy that Sam can barely think. He's watching the blood shoot out of this kangaroo's guts as the dingoes continue to devour it. His senses are being overwhelmed not just by the disgusting display in front of him, but by the loud sounds of millions of crickets and tens of thousands of butterflies right in his ear. So he ends up closing his eyes and puts his hands over his ears and falls to the ground. In an instant, the world falls silent. Sam opens his eyes. He's laying there on the ground, and it's nighttime. He opens his eyes, and it's nighttime. It was day previously when he had seen this macabre display of the Dingo Man's feast. Well, he didn't eat any, at least as far as Sam saw. But the dogs had their fill. Sam is laying there, and it's nighttime. And he's looking around, and he sees about 50 yards away from him, a bonfire is raging. And around this bonfire, he sees a couple people, and he picks himself up and starts to walk over there. It's his friends. His friends are on the beach having a bonfire. Sam walks over and sits down. He has no idea how any of this happened. Was he truly laying on the beach for that long? Did his friends just happen to set up a bonfire that far away? They see their friend all crumpled on the beach. They're like, hey, do you think we should go wake up Sam? Nah, he'll wake up eventually. Sam, to this day, has no idea what happened. A collection of stories from a single person who posts online underneath the name Sam is Sam for Sam. And I don't know if that's his real name, so we just use the name Sam anyways, but now, longtime listeners of the show know, and I talk about it all the time, I feel like I'm a broken record, but I do feel at a certain point I have to kind of show my method. I mean, I do it all the time. I probably need to stop doing it. But basically, when I find a story online, if I'm able to verify any of the events, I'll look through people's posting history. It is the one advantage you get from finding things on Reddit. Things on the X-board are generally always more compelling and better written, but you can never check anything. It can be completely anonymous, and there's no way to tell if this person is telling the truth. On Reddit, you can go through their posting history, and if they post a lot of insane things, you can go, well, this guy's probably making it up. And one of the things I look for is some people have one crazy experience in their life, a paranormal experience. Some people have multiple. But you really begin to wonder when they have multiple of once-in-a-lifetime events. Dingo God, multi-dimensional chickens, Mandela effect poultry type situation. The guardian angel story, that is one thing. We see a lot of those. A lot of people have those. But with these other two stories, I was quite suspicious of what Sam was at here. Now, these stories also were posted 4 years ago. This is anything that propped up recently. And so when I got Sam's story, I thought, well, let's kind of look into this. And it's all once-in-a-lifetime type of paranormal events. And I did something that I almost never do. I've probably done this 2 or 3 times over the course of 7 years and 1,485 episodes. I've probably done this 2 or 3 times. I've contacted someone before doing the episode. Because I wanted to figure out if it was true. But 2, I had a question, a clarification question. When the dog Jackson went missing, I thought, well, did no one notice that Jackson was gone either? We know when the chickens disappeared, they said that they didn't know that there was a chicken there before. Did the same thing happen with the dog? Because that would be, again, another bizarre element. The chickens, you go, dude, just Sam, I don't know how many chickens we had. We always had 13 or 15 or 20. I don't know. We have a bunch of chickens. But if the family also denied that the dog, Jackson, also ever existed, then that means there is some sort of multidimensional shenanigans going on here. He wrote in his narrative one night before running into a wall of silence, and by the time I got to the chook pen, which is a chicken pen, he was gone, but I still remember Jackson Dog. Unquote. That's his exact quote. So I thought, well, did the family not know that the dog was gone as well? He also said, and I left this out, I forgot to say this earlier during the story. He said that I'm pretty sure my neighbor was aware that something was going on, like the chickens going missing, and my family was like, well, we don't know. We've always had this amount of chickens. We don't know what you're talking about, Sam. He goes, I had the feeling like my neighbor might have known what was going on, but he kind of warned me not to say anything. He just warned me to just kind of drop it. Okay, so, interesting story. I messaged him. I messaged his account. Sam is Sam for Sam. I messaged him and I said, hey, my name is Jason Carpenter. I'm a paranormal researcher. Pull up the actual... I'm a paranormal researcher with a paranormal podcast, and I have a question about something you posted 3 years ago. My question is, it's unclear about your dog. Was your dog's disappearance just like the chickens, where only you remember the dog? Or did everyone in your family remember the dog existed before it went missing? And I sent that on July 26th at 1:04 in the morning. On the same day, July 26th at 1:51 a.m. So, I mean, don't make me do math again, but basically within an hour, I got a message from a different account. I did not get a message back from Sam. About 40 minutes later, I got a message from another account that said Sammy was an idiot. He thought talking about all that stuff with the dogs and the property wouldn't be noticed if he was online. It was all made up and things are better left asleep and undisturbed, mate. They really are, please. Have a good one. What's interesting, there's a lot of different ways that we can look at this. One could totally be a troll. Totally could be. In essence, anything in the world could be a troll. I'll be honest, half the news articles you read today or saw on television, that was all made up too to kind of rile you up. Or there was like 1/8 of a truth in a story, the rest of it's supposed to piss you off. That's just the fact of the world in general. So it's not impossible that this whole thing is a big made up story. What's interesting is, again, if he had posted all of this stuff on July 5th, then he's responding on July 6th going, it's just made up, I would actually lean more towards this is some sort of LARP, this is some sort of ARG, this is some sort of odd thing going on. But the fact that we have a difference of years in between the original posts and then me reaching out just randomly and getting a response from a different account, I found that very odd. In fact, had I not gotten any response at all, the chances of me covering these stories would be far, far lower. I probably still would have done the Guardian Angel one, because that kind of could exist on its own. However, I would say the story could be a little suspect. This guy's posted other weird stuff online, but Guardian Angels, we see these encounters a lot and would have just kind of went on with it. It was the response that got my curiosity sky high. It's the response that prompted me to cover these stories. For the sequence of events to happen where, let's say that this is real, I am not entirely for sure how this would have worked out, because Sam continues to post on Reddit to this day. He's just posting about regular old stuff. The sequence of events, I messaged Sam, which I've never gotten a reply from him. He never emailed me and said, hey, don't talk about this. I was just making it up. I never got any reply, or a reply saying, yeah, I'd love to talk to you more about that. When's the time to meet up? Or whatever. And never a reply from him. I got a reply from this other account, and he's only posted one other time online, and it was on a subreddit called Australian Professional, which is basically just people talking about being an executive in Australia. One post. And it's been around for a couple of years. That account's been around for a couple of years. But I don't know what to make of this. Honestly, the rational thing is Sam made the story up years ago, and when he got a email out of the blue from a paranormal researcher, he goes, oh, this will be funny. I'll use this sock puppet account that I set up back in 2024 that I've only posted once on, as far as the records show, to tell him not to cover the story. That would be the most logical thing, and then Sam just goes on talking. If I was doing it, I wanted to fool people, I would do that, but then I would also email from the Sam account being like, hey, you messaged me and the message was intercepted. This is a big issue in our town. Please, please, please don't cover it. Then have another sock puppet account email me and say, you need to drop it. Like, you know what I mean? I would have created this artificial drama with multiple accounts. Maybe he didn't want to put that much effort into it, but I go, why would he put any effort into it at all? This original story is years ago. That's the most logical answer, but honestly, like, my gut, I'll be honest, I'm in the middle. Generally on this show, I cover stories that I do believe are true, and if they're not true, I try to expose them as some sort of fraud. I'm in the middle on this one. It could be totally fake and a joke he's playing on people. It's odd, but not unheard of. But the other part of me makes me think that it's real. I think there's two things that could be going on, okay? One is that he really did experience these events, and somehow, when he got my email, he mentioned it to other people. He goes, hey, it's weird, I got an email the other day from some random paranormal, within 40 minutes. But again, it's 1 a.m. here, that means it's probably like 3 p.m. in October in Australia. He mentions to somebody, hey, yeah, it was weird, I got an email from a paranormal researcher about all that weirdness on the farm. And someone goes, did you respond? And he goes, no, I don't even want to really think about all that stuff. It was all creepy. And then someone responded for him. That's possible. And the events were true. That's possible. The other one is that the events were true, and this is full conspiracy cap. All the events were true, what he was talking about, and the message to him was intercepted. He doesn't know that I ever emailed him in the first place. There are people in his community trying to shut this story down to the point that they have access to his mail, to his Reddit mail. Now we're in full conspiracy theory territory. But he never got the message. There's actually like the city elders, and they're like, the chicken thing is about to be exposed, and everyone's all, chicken thing? What are you talking about? He's like, for the last time, chickens disappear. You guys don't remember them. The only people who remember them are me, Sam's old neighbor, who's also the mayor now, who's also the mayor and the grand conspirator of this. He goes, the only people who knows chickens are missing are me and Sam. You didn't know that, guys, but this whole area used to be full of chicken farms. Remember that? Don't you think it's weird with all these empty chicken coops? People are like, yeah, I thought that was weird. I thought that's where, I don't know, maybe like the dwarves lived. The guy's like, no, that's not where the dwarves live. Everyone used to have chickens, and they disappeared one by one throughout the entire town. But no one remembered the chickens were missing but me and Sam. Now, Sam, a couple years ago, they're like, who's Sam? Who's Sam? He moved away. He got an apartment in the city. He's out in the big city. He's like, Sam, it's a kid who used to live here. They're like, oh, we're just messing with you. We remember him. But anyways, guys, we can't let the chicken story get out. And I've always been worried about this. So I have actually been secretly monitoring Sam's email. They go, well, couldn't you have monitored his whole account before he posted it online in the first place? I don't have all the answers. That's both me and the mayor/neighbor. Because that would have been the easiest thing. What happens with Reddit is at a certain point, posts become archived where you can't take them down. It's just part of the site. You can't remove them. Fascinating story, though. So weird. Maybe I would have covered it. But I did think, I wonder if any of this is true. A multidimensional chickens, the Dingo God, a guardian angel in the form of a teenage girl. Like, it's just sometimes a little too weird. It makes me suspect. If I had never gotten an email telling me not to cover it, I never would have. I probably wouldn't have. It added a layer of conspiracy to Tales of the Paranormal, and in the end, who could pass that up? So is there any truth to any of this? Who knows? And listen, I love you guys, and I know you guys would never do this, but just to cover all of my bases, don't email Sam or harass Sam in any sort of way, because, listen, it's possible that all of this stuff is a big conspiracy in town, and the next thing you know, there's a knock on your door and you open it up. Or do you? Because no one ever lived at your house. No one ever rented out that apartment. No one had that corner office. No one sat in that chair in school. You went missing, and everyone in the world forgot you ever even existed. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is at DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm so glad you listened to it today. Have a great one, guys.